Thank you for being here with me and welcome back. My name is Catherine Daniels, and I love to empower people with spiritual healing and wellness. The best thing about Retreat to Peace is the gift of inner peace, greater love, and joy. And during these times of changes and uncertainty in our world, nothing is permanent except our souls. And that's why when we come together, traveling through one another's countries, creating a bridge, removing all labels, and as we come together, finding our one home in our one world, this is why our signature talk today is so important. Today, I am honored and privileged to share with you Brittany Stori. Hi, Brittany.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. We were just talking before we actually started recording, and there's so much that we could talk about tonight with our show, or this morning, depending on where in the world you're listening right now. But I would like, Brittany, for you just to share a little bit about who you are and just give the listeners a little bit of some of your life experience that you have gone through and who you are today.
Firstly, I love the way that you asked that because you asked me who you are instead of what do you do. And I think a lot of times we forget who we are and what got us started. Um, well, I'm a small town girl from Little, Rhode Island, and I grew up in a funeral home, my father's funeral home, and I was often exposed to how people are remembered. And I just knew I wanted to be remembered as perfect. However, my upbringing had such a high level of expectation from the people around me that it was impossible to get to their level of perfection. So I made up in my mind that I'm not enough, never going to be enough, and that there's something wrong with me. And from a young age, I always thought differently. I felt differently, more intense, I think, than the people around me. I thought about very adult things, mortality. And I remember going up to my mom, probably around the age of 10 or 12, saying that there's something wrong with me. Normal people don't think the way I think. And she's like, oh, well, everyone has something, which was very much the thing for, a mom to say back in the 90s and early 2000s, because mental health awareness wasn't really a thing just yet. But I was a chubby kid, and I was the only one in the family like that. And my mom and I went to the doctors one day. I was 8 years old, and the doctor pulled her aside and said, she needs to start watching what she's eating because she is too heavy for her age and her height. And all I heard in that instance was, there's something wrong with me. I'm a mistake. I am not perfect. And that turned into a lot of diets that were forced on me, as well as this impossible physical standard now that was never enough. So I ate more and more. Now I know that as compulsive overeating. That lasted until about 16. And as I grew older, my self-hatred grew. I didn't feel like I was worth anything. That also largely has to do with having a narcissistic parent like my father. And that was all normal. That was my normal life, feeling awful about myself, feeling lower than dirt. And I made up in my mind that maybe if I just lose the weight, everyone would be proud of me. Maybe one day I'll feel like enough if I'm skinny. And that started the cycle of anorexia, bulimia, you name it, and those diseases. I did it. Within 2.5 years, I lost over 100 pounds. And I was severely underweight. I was very, very sick. And it was to the point where my heart was getting weaker and weaker and was not pumping enough blood to my limbs, so my limbs would often fall asleep. So I was actively dying at that point. There were nights I would pray to die, actually, and I made up in my mind that it's okay to die as long as I die skinny.
I want to jump in for a second here because there's so much you've already shared with the listeners in such a short amount of time. And I just want to share with my listeners that I know you can't see Brittany because you're listening, but this beautiful, amazing soul in front of me is so vibrant and filled with light that it's just incredible. So I just need to share that because they can't see what I see because they're listening. But yes, you look very healthy, and I can tell like everything is just coming from your heart, and it's just very beautiful. And I want you to know that I'm acknowledging you because I see you, and I'm validating you and your space. Um, and I want to like double back for a second before we go too far forward because you said so many powerful things. And I just wondered, growing up in this environment surrounded by death, and do you feel that that was part of what led you down this road? Like when you look back, hindsight, is that part of what led you to being in a space of um, you're not good enough, or you had to be remembered in a certain way? Like can you look back and say what it was that hit you?
I think it desensitized death quite a bit. So I wasn't afraid of dying. I'm also a woman of faith. I have been since I was very young. And in a way, I remember writing as this is just coming to me right now. I remember writing, I think I was 14, that I felt closer to the people in the caskets than the people seeing them on the outside
Wow.
because they were so peaceful and their suffering was gone and they were on the other side. And I just knew whatever's on the other side is beyond even comprehension. And it's tough when you're a woman of faith because you know that. Oh, and it's so hard sometimes when you're in those dark places not to give in to that. And so, yes, to answer your question, absolutely. A therapist actually pointed out when I was 19 that in a way I probably subconsciously wanted to die from anorexia because anorexia is literally denying yourself life.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, that's how I wanted to be closer to my dad because maybe then I would get his attention.
How did you get your dad's attention?
That comes much later.
Okay. Well, we'll save that one then. But I mean, right now, if you had to give a message to your younger self, what message would that be?
There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You do not need to be fixed. You are wounded and you are allowed to heal.
Yeah. I mean, how many people only wish they had heard those words when they were young,
Mm-hmm.
and how it could have changed their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing that gift because that's powerful.
Of course.
So as we go a little bit further in your story, I mean, it sounds like you're in your teenage years now. And so this is when the anorexia kind of hits.
Yeah, and I got severely underweight. And at that point, I was 19, and my brain functioning, because I wasn't getting any nutrients, had severely declined, and I could not keep up with any college courses. I could barely get out of bed. And so I came home, and I I would watch the Dr. Oz show in the afternoon because I had to eat occasionally to make it look like I was trying. And that took my mind off of eating. So it was around the lunch hour. I would watch Dr. Oz, and I wanted to see something that he said. So I went to his website, and there was a little column asking people about their experience with their eating disorders. And I'm like, all right, I'll write in. I didn't think anything of it. And a couple days later, I get a call from one of the producers asking me to go on the show. And I was I was like, is this a scam? Like, are you guys real? And no, they sent all the paperwork, got the train ticket for me, everything. I took my mom because she has always been my biggest cheerleader. And we recorded the show. At the end of the show, they offered me and three other women on the show a full ride scholarship to Shades of Hope in Texas. And I said no on national television because I knew everything. I had everything under control. I did not. And it took me 2 weeks to decide. And what was the turning point was I was throwing up and I threw up blood. And that was the first time that had happened. And for the first time, I was afraid of myself. I didn't know what getting better or being fixed looked like, but I knew it had to be better than what I was doing. So I went, and I remember getting there, and the light I saw in people was absolutely amazing. It's called community. It's a gathering in the beginning of the day where we share our feelings, our claims, and I looked around. I'm like, what are these people on? Like, can I have some of this stuff? And I had just never seen people in recovery before. I had never seen anyone who was mentally healthy. And I stayed there until that November of 2012. And I came back. And I thought that as long as I stopped, I was fine. And I turned 21. I was not fine. That was the green light for alcoholism for me. And within 2.5 months, I totaled 2 cars. I was sexually assaulted. And after that specific event, I made up that I wasn't worth anything. I deserved what happened to me for some reason because it was my fault. And I went full blown into alcoholism, drug addiction because I did that all to check out, numb out, get out, just out. And that led to homelessness. It led to a very scary lifestyle. And that lasted until April 2016. And my sister, she was struggling with anxiety, and she wasn't sleeping anymore. And she had disappeared. We found a note, and 5 days later she was found, and she had taken her life. And at that moment, I had to put down alcohol enough to plan a funeral because my parents were beside themselves, obviously. And I knew what to look for to plan the funeral because she left me clues. For instance, her laptop password was "when you say you love me." And I knew that's not a coincidence. That's what she wants her song to be.
Mm-hmm.
And our symbol for her is the sunflower. Because she wanted to go to this field of sunflowers in Buttonwoods, Connecticut, and she never got there. So the sunflower is us living these experiences for her because she's still with us, just in a different way.
Yeah.
And then I returned to my drinking, and that lasted until January of 2017. And I woke up and I'm like, why am I doing something that does absolutely nothing for me? All it has done is take away relationships. It's taken away time I could have been there for my sister. And I was robbed of that because of the disease of addiction. And I woke up one day and I was thirsty, and it was a thirst I can only explain as for something spiritual, something greater than myself. I knew that was my last day that I was going to drink. And I went to an AA meeting. Didn't speak to anyone, slipped in and out, but I kept going. And the more I went, the more I heard my story, the more I started to see who I actually was without my addictions. And I learned how to go through the process of healing this disease. And I also found bodybuilding. So just traded one addiction for another. And it also justified me using my eating disorder in a way. Not necessarily starving or anything like that, but structure, calorie counting, macronutrient counting. And that lasted for 4 years. And I trained for 4 years for one competition. And I went all the way with it, all the way. I did anything I could get my hands on. In the end, I did it. 2 weeks before it got canceled because of COVID. And my world came to a screeching halt because something I placed my identity, my sobriety in was completely gone. I didn't know where I fit in the world anymore. And that started the cycle of overeating again, partially because I was severely depleted at 5% body fat, but also because it's a disease that I knew and I knew well. And I didn't know how to stop. I went to treatment for a second time, and they gladly took me in, just like family. I had more to work on differently because I had different experiences as an adult to unpack. And I got home and I was like, yeah, I'm stopped now. I'm good. Same. I don't know why we do this to ourselves. It's a cycle of insanity. And I was not okay. I went back to it. But every time I started on a meal plan, I was still very hungry. And I knew I wasn't under eating, I wasn't overeating, but I felt hungry, physically hungry. And what had happened over the years, our organs, muscles, whatever, they're like elastics, right? So if you stretch something too much, it's going to stay stretched out. So my stomach was so stretched out that following a meal plan was nearly impossible. So I did some research and I qualified for a low BMI study for the gastric sleeve surgery. And I knew that it wasn't the easy way out. It wasn't this easy fix because I could eat right through that. There was a spiritual aspect to this journey that I needed to keep in mind. So I went back to Overeaters Anonymous. I did the mental work, got abstinent 2 weeks before the surgery because I couldn't try to get abstinent before because I barely qualified to get the surgery anyway. So I had to spend a whole summer feeling like that. And it was so uncomfortable. I can't wait for this summer. It's going to be so much better. And so I went through with it. At 2 weeks into my abstinence, I went through with the surgery. And I use it as a tool. It is not the easy way out. And it has been a lot of work, a lot of mental work. And the healthier I got, the more I saw who was for me and who was not. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, one of those people is a family member who was not. And I had to make a difficult decision in my career because my body was speaking out from the stress I was experiencing. I lost half an eyebrow from stress. That hair came out within 2 weeks. I had migraines, irregular menstrual cycles. Oh gosh, and just among other symptoms that make sense now, but did not then. I was very forgetful. And now I know because I was subject to narcissistic abuse. And what happens with that is the shrinkage of the hippocampus. So that short term memory that gets put into our long term memory, I couldn't even absorb anything. And the amygdala was expanded so much and so the amygdala controls our emotions. And so even the smallest little things, I was freaking out on the inside. And I had no idea why. No idea until much later. So I knew I needed to make a career change. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I am 30 years old. I have no college degree. What am I going to do? And then a voice within me was like, what do you know? And I'm like, well, I know I have a story. I know that I love to help people. And I know recovery. So that's when I looked into coaching. And I was looking into recovery coaching, and it's very much a state by state basis with their certifications. And I'm like, I'm not going to limit myself to one state at a time. I don't feel like what I have to say or offer just fits into one state.
Right.
Especially Rhode Island. It's very tiny. And so I sought out a bigger certification, an international certification. And I decided to open my own business. And I have the privilege of not only helping people, but also helping the little girl that is within me now when no one could help her earlier. I can finally be there for my inner child. And she is so beautiful and bright, always smiling. And which is funny because sometimes I get self-conscious of my smile because my upper lip disappears.
Aw.
But she's just so beautiful. And now I can be there for her in a way that I could have never been had I been guided to make those changes in my life.
There's so much to talk about.
I'm a lot, I know.
There's so much to talk about. And first and foremost, I'm so sorry about your sister. I know that has to really stay with you in so many ways, in such a powerful way. And I know that that's part of why you're doing what you're doing, because it's just like this platform. If you can get one person to take something away from it and use it for good, then it's worth every minute, right? So I totally understand that. But I'm very, very sorry for your loss there with your sister. And I think about this story of being in the height of addiction when she is struggling very clearly, in a different way, and not even understanding. I don't even know how much you were present with her as far as what she was going through. So that had to have been really difficult for you. I can only imagine. But it sounds like you had mentioned, the narcissism in your father. And it sounds like, though, both you and your sister are highly sensitive people. And I think that's something that people don't talk about enough, right? You have this keen awareness of your environment. You're picking up on these environmental cues that maybe other people wouldn't pick up on. And you're taking that to heart in such a profound way. Looking back now, do you see all of these experiences as a gift to you? I know you brought up the spiritual aspect, several times. So I'm just wondering, where did that come into your story and into your journey? Like, when did you really get clear about the spiritual aspect of yourself?
Well, I never doubted the existence of God. I was brought up in a Baptist church. I went to a Christian elementary and middle school. But I felt this closeness that didn't match the people around me. And I never doubted that God loved me. I just didn't love myself enough to accept that. And I think that's just allowing him to love me. That has been new within probably the last, I'd say, 5 years even. Um, because I knew God is capable of anything, but I always figured he had other better things to do than to help me, this alcoholic, this drug addict, this eating disorder mess. But he was there the whole time, putting people in my life, putting me on national television. Who does that? um, I have been introduced to amazing people, given fantastic opportunities, and yes, my sister passing away is a tragedy. However, I feel like God allows certain things to happen to shake us up a little bit, to remind us what we're here for, what our actual purpose is, and to not sweat the small stuff and not engage in the drama
Mm-hmm.
that is around us, or was around me at least.
So when did that become really clear for you that you were in this environment of drama? That's your word, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, was there an aha moment like where you were just like fully awake to it?
Yes, there was. I mean, I knew it always existed. My life has always been very dramatic, even though I don't consider myself a dramatic person. And I was sitting in a room with my father for our yearly review, where he tells me my raise, calculates my new wage. We go over a few things. But when he put that number in the calculator and I looked, I didn't feel anything. No excitement, nothing. And it was a good number. It was a great number. But I realized it didn't matter. I cannot be bought to stay here, to stay in this toxic environment. And I'm made for more than this. And there are people waiting to be helped. And it's interesting because I'm getting these dreams like crazy. And like, for instance, one of them was recent, probably within the last 2 weeks. And I was on a dirt road and I'm walking towards this mountain, this really big mountain. And this guy drives up next to me. Kind of looked like Woody Harrelson. I'm not sure what that means. But, but he's like, "Do you need a ride?" I'm like, no, I need to get up there. Those women need me. And then I got into the car after talking about that, and then I woke up.
Interesting.
And I'm like, wow, this is so cool that I'm not only passionate about everything right now, but it's in my subconscious. I get to dream about it. Like, what a gift.
Absolutely. And I mean, with any dream where you're in the car, like you're driving your life, right? Yes, there's a mountain ahead of you and it's going to be hard work,
Mm-hmm.
but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's you're creating and manifesting
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that you wish you had for yourself
Yes.
to take care of that little girl in you. And I think a lot of people underestimate this inner child. When I speak with different people on the show, some people don't know what that means, but for those of you that are listening and listen to the show frequently, you understand the inner child is that smaller version of ourselves when we were children that we still carry around with us as adults, and that part of us that we haven't tended to heal the wounds of traumatic situations or whatever it was that hurt us when we were children. So healing the inner child, it's a lot of work because a lot of us don't want to go back into that arena or that space and time when we were hurt as children because it's very painful. But the blessing in it is that you were in that situation because you're supposed to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, that's the lesson. Like, whatever it is, you're supposed to do something with that. And that's the beautiful part because when you can take it and turn it inside out and see the gift, and, a lot of times people will talk about, well, this is my experience, and this was this person that did this, that, the other to me. We have to also show gratitude because just as much as there was this negative aspect, there was also a lot of positive that came from it because you wouldn't be who you are today if those things didn't happen to you. You wouldn't have made these choices or have had this drive or inner fire if those things didn't happen. So it's a really interesting, I don't know, like, struggle, tug of war that people go through internally until they shake it out and make sense of it. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I can carry on and I know what I need to do and I'm ready to go. And I see that in you. I like totally feel that. I see that. What was the hardest decision you ever made? Like when you look back, what was the hardest decision?
I would definitely say leaving my father's business because I had to grieve this version of myself that I had thought was right for me because my dad thought it was right for me. I also had to grieve the fact that I'm gonna forever be that girl on the porch waiting for her father to come home, but he's never coming home. Not the way I want him to.
Mm-hmm.
So there were multiple levels of grief that I had to go through to make room for a new vision. And family is really hard, and especially with narcissistic abuse, there's a lot of unlearning to be done because the entire time I was made to think that was normal. It's not normal. It's not normal to be belittled constantly. It's not normal to find any excuse to point out an imperfection in someone. He is the kind of person literally that goes into a room and looks at what is wrong with it instead of what's right with it. I don't want to be that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I'm even capable of being that. So I had to say goodbye to my dad. This version of him that I had made up in my head that would be home one day. Like he won't. Maybe we'll get to a state where we can be polite to one another, but that's a different person.
So do you not have a relationship with
Not right
him?
now.
Okay.
No, no. Because when the thing is, he only texted me since I've been gone. That was only January too, so this is very recent. And there wasn't one text that made me feel good about myself,
Mm-hmm.
that made me feel okay. And I invited him to a therapy session to have healthy communication because that's what he wanted to talk to me apparently. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll extend the olive branch, have my therapist on the line, and we can have healthy communication. He said, I'm not going to talk with you and your therapist. If you want to talk to me, you know how to find me. In my head, I'm going like, I don't want to talk to you. What are you talking about? And since blocking him, I have felt so much lighter because it wasn't even what he was saying. It's the feeling I got, this almost like trauma response that I felt that I don't want to feel. and I'm sure I'm going to see him one day. It's a very small town, but I need to build my strength and heal a little bit more first. And
Mhm.
I'm looking into different methods to do that because even though, I'm coaching, I'm still healing. I'm going to continue to heal. I probably will be in therapy until the day I die because I love it so much. Um, because I'm learning about myself at all the
Yeah,
different stages of my life. And not to sound conceited or anything, but because I don't know this person quite yet, and she's pretty incredible.
absolutely. Absolutely. And the beautiful thing about being the adult now is you do get to decide. It's not like when you were a little girl where you were at the mercy of the adults.
Hmm.
It's like you do get to decide. And that is amazing. And I can relate so much to what you're sharing because even for myself, I had to learn at a very early age, very, very early age, what the definition of family was. And for me, I literally had to come to grips with my family may not always be blood related. My tribe, my people that provide unconditional love to me through thick and thin may not be blood related. And as I got older and learned more and more, I realized, oh my goodness, like this is pretty awesome because I literally can now have a place of boundaries for the people that are unhealthy. And I can keep them in a certain space where they're not going to hurt me like they used to hurt me. Because I think, especially for women, I think we're coming into the world with this idea that we have to, be the daughter, be the sister, be the friend, be the mother, be the grandmother, whoever, aunt, there's like we're all these different titles, right? And then we put all that pressure on ourselves that we have to be the best daughter. And sometimes that rubs us the wrong way because we know in our soul that what we're doing doesn't feel right. Like we feel it in our soul. It's just angst. And it's like, this doesn't feel right. Like something doesn't feel right. And sometimes we know what it is. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes it takes us a while, to figure it out. And for myself, I just remember this, this crazy, crazy saying, it's like, once you leave this house, you're never coming back.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, wow, because for me, I was to be seen and not heard. So, God forbid you said or did anything that created attention or something, because you would have a repercussion of that. But that whole concept of you're not supposed to have a voice, that kind of drives home this message like, you're not supposed to be seen. You're not supposed to be heard. Who are you and how dare you? How dare you speak out or say something? But the interesting thing is like, but that is what we're supposed to do. Like each and every person has been created with uniqueness to be themselves. And I think the more that we can fall in love with who we are, the more we can share our gifts with the world. And that is something that every single human needs to do is fall in love with themselves first, because that's the best gift. That's the best gift you could give yourself. You're never going to find peace with any other person, any other thing, whatever you think that thing is. It comes from inside within your soul. And it's just powerful. So, yeah. So, the day that I had my aha moment, you when you leave this house, you're never coming back. And, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out of it. I thought, wow, okay, okay. Well, I think it's my turn. We're going to flip the switch, flip the script, right? And rewrite it. And you know what? I can have boundaries with this. I can have boundaries with this. I don't need to have you all in 1,000% in my world anymore because it's not safe. So I can have boundaries with this.
Yeah.
And one tool that I love to share real quick is especially for people that are highly sensitive people and people that have stressed relationships with family or friends or whoever. I mean, the bottom line is that as adults, we have to get into a space where we are protecting ourselves so that we can be the best version of ourselves and not go into these zones of unhealthiness with ourselves. And we're the only one that knows that because it's who we are, right? We're with ourselves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if we don't like ourselves, then something's wrong, right? So we have to think about this. So if everyone, and please don't do this, I've shared this before. So if you're driving a car, you're going to have to pull over. But if everyone just closes their eyes for a minute and goes through this exercise with me, and just close your eyes and just imagine yourself as this beautiful house, whatever your dream house looks like. And then imagine who's sitting in the living room with you, who's having those intimate conversations. And then who's in the kitchen? The kitchen is where we feed each other, where we have meals together. So definitely there's a deeper conversation happening there. Who's upstairs in the bedroom? Now, I'm not talking about any kind of thing here except your soul. Who is literally in the bedroom with your soul? Not your body, your soul. And who is on your front porch? Do you have the door closed because they need to be on your front porch? They're not quite in the house because there's something you're not quite sure about. Who's on the sidewalk? Who's at the gate? Like maybe you're not sure if you even want them on the property. And who's outside the gate? And then who's down the street? Is someone at a stop sign? Is someone at a stop sign 3 states away or 2 countries away? Where are all these people in your life? And then when you figure out that's when you know. That's when you know that you fully can love yourself. Because now, if someone is in your house and they're crossing a boundary, you can open the door. You could escort them out. If they need to go to the fence, you can put them at the fence. If they are okay to come, be on the porch, you can put them on the porch temporarily. Let them back in when you feel safe. But you have a choice. And that is the amazing thing, is that you have a choice. So if you're highly sensitive and you're struggling with some of this, take your power back. Take your power back. Redefine it, rescript it, and give yourself that gift. So I just share that with all of you. And I hope for someone out there that it does serve the purpose that it's intended to serve. There's going to be people, quite honestly, if you're married and your spouse is not your 7th power person, that's okay. Not everybody's going to be your 7th power person. Just recognize that. Maybe you can't always go to that person. Maybe you have another person who's going to be your go-to person for certain things. But just recognize that, and it's okay. But yeah, you get to create it, and that's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So let's get back to you, Brittany. after we had that little exercise
That was great.
with our audience. So hopefully that helps you. I think that it's an amazing tool, definitely. So hopefully that helps you. I know that's something I include in my book. And I just think the more that we can shine light on helping people to be comfortable within their soul, I mean, what a more beautiful gift can you give than that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love so much your self awareness because I think, you know, especially for women as we come out of our 20s and go into our 30s, it's almost like there's this shedding of skin that happens. It's almost like, you know, the baby phoenix is arising from the fire and becoming this more beautiful version of themselves. And I see that in you. And it's like, you know, as I said earlier, the people that can't see you, I can see that in you. And it is gorgeous. And I just, I just wonder, like, do you have any awareness of what's unfolding for you right now?
Yeah, the only awareness I have is their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Their feelings of warmth, comfort. Sometimes I'll physically feel like this pull, which is how I felt with coaching. I felt like pulled to do it. And I've never felt that before in my life. And I get a sense of relief that it's going to be more than okay. And I think I can't, like, I have a vision, of course, of what's in store for me. I think it's so much bigger than how much I can even comprehend at the moment. I think I would drive myself crazy if I dipped into it a little bit too much. But what I can appreciate now are those feelings that I'm feeling right now, because it's been a long time since I've given myself permission to be in my body.
Yeah.
And because my body has been through so much, so many sizes, so many substances, so many wrongful ideas that were not mine to carry. And it's nice to give her the healing that she deserves. And I loved when you said manifesting, because that's been my big thing lately. Like I can see everything that's happening for me, not to me, for me, for the first
Mm-hmm.
time in my entire life. And I'm not afraid at all. And I do think I still have that healthy fear about certain things, but as far as the bigger picture goes, I know the universe has my back.
Absolutely. 1,000%. Like 1,000%. And I feel like right now we're living in a place where people do have to go deeper. They have to go deeper within themselves and really become their best friend, right? People haven't been doing that. I mean, for a long, long time. And you had mentioned it earlier, mental health was taboo to talk about. Now we have free reign to talk about it. And thank goodness we do, because it is necessary. And so many people are just, I don't know, so many people have just been in the cycle of, you know, running from themselves, not even realizing they're running from themselves. Like you said, you know, maybe they're in the wrong job. Maybe they're running from their inner child and don't know what to do. So they don't know how to deal with the hurt or the pain. So they're running from that. And the thing about this work is it really is not a one size fits all. It really is very individual. It's not easy. It's just not easy. And the safe place, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is just really creating that best friend within yourself and knowing that throughout the process, you are fully protected. Because as I say in the intro, the the only thing that we really have is our soul, right? Our soul is energy, and that's what goes on. Our body, why we're here, we have to protect our soul with our body, which is why we have to love our body. But we also have to protect our mind, right? Because our mind can be a weapon itself. So it's important that we take care of the trinity, the mind, the body, the soul. It all works in unison. And as we go through this process, if you have faith, that is it right there. Like, you have to trust, you have to rely, you have to know and feel safe in knowing. And sometimes you're not going to have the answers, and that's okay. And kind of like what you said, you lean in when you know that it feels right. Like, there's a reason, there's something that's guiding you, and there's a reason. So you lean into it. I love that. I mean, you're so on point with how you've moved through this process. And as you shared your story, what I don't know that you recognize is that your confidence went up. The way you share your story and how it unfolds, your sense of courage and being courageous, like, shot up. I mean, there's just so many beautiful things. And I can't thank you enough for sharing this journey that you've had, these 30 years of your life so far. And it's going to be absolutely magnificent to see what unfolds for you as you move forward and the impact you're going to make, because there's no question in my mind, you're on your way. Absolutely on your way.
Thank you. Can I share a very small prayer with your audience?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. So this is a prayer that a friend told me. It's: God, allow me to see the truth about myself, no matter how wonderful that may be.
That's a mic drop.
A very
Yeah.
special person taught me that.
That is absolutely beautiful. And I think everyone needs to do that. Everyone. The joy in your heart just radiates.
Oh, thank you.
It really does. And it's just so, so amazing. So, given everything we've talked about, is there anything on your heart that's coming to you that maybe someone listening right now needs to hear as a message from you?
I'm getting the sentence: you are not a mistake. You were planned from the beginning, and there is nothing wrong with you. You're beautiful just the way you are.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I don't think enough people hear that message. So I think that's a powerful message and just so on point. I I wonder if little Brittany had any idea who she turned out to be.
I have no idea. I'm still working with her because the times that followed after that take up more space still in my memory. And I know there's a reason for that. I'm writing my book. And once they are out, I plan to continue to heal in that. But again, I go back to a feeling because I don't think I was allowed to have a vision back then that I'm going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to help a lot of people.
Definitely. And usually with people with their inner child, it's like they either love their inner child or they have this intense anger because they wanted their inner child to respond differently or do something different, these kinds of things. And I always find that fascinating because it's like it's so polar opposite,
Mm.
right? And I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong, but the lesson in that and what you can learn from that, there's so much. And I think for people, we were briefly speaking before we started, for people that are guided and do have gifts where they sense or feel and hear and all of these things, this higher level of intuitive processing that they have to go through makes it very intense. So for anyone like that, I think it's very important that you honor yourself and just remember to be in awareness and be gentle with yourself as you're learning. And where you are is okay. It's exactly where you're supposed to be. And it's not forever. It's not forever. But you're gifted this opportunity. Brittany, if I were to pick up your earth angel feather off the ground, what would your message to the world be?
My message is, you are not broken. You do not need to be fixed. You are only wounded, and you deserve to heal. There is nothing wrong with you. You are enough just as you are.
Thank you so much for being on the show with me. So appreciate it. And I'm so excited for you. You have so much ahead, and it's beautiful, and it's unfolding beautifully. So with that, this is Catherine Daniels with Retreat to Peace, reminding you to live your authentic life with peace. And as always, retreat to peace, and we'll see you next time.